Shalom and good evening, my brothers and sisters. Coming up here to give you a word from the Most High, a word that comes from His scriptures, a word that popped out unto me when I was studying the scriptures that relate to Daniel's chapter 2. One thing I learned about the Father that He always used what? Earthly examples, some people call them allegories, examples, to help us understand what is the message that our Father is saying to us? Also, to help us understand these spiritual mysteries, to help us to graduate from the milk unto the meat, which is what? Complex food, which represent heavenly slash spiritual things. So, what you see before you is a picture. This is dealing with the image that Nebuchadnezzar saw in his dream that Daniel prophesies, or not Daniel, that Daniel, excuse me, y'all, interpret unto him by Yahuwah's. I mean, sorry, y'all. I'm trying to find the right word. Through the abilities that Yahuwah gave unto Daniel to interpret a dream. So, for those who been following biblical prophecies and understanding where we are with Yah's timeline, and this will be a part of Yah's timeline, as well as a part of the Egypt and Babylon of today playlist. Okay. But our blessed Messiah told us to watch and pray, meaning that we should understand where we are at. Just like he told the Pharisees, do you not understand these signs of the times? Because as written in Genesis, the heavens will manifest a sign unto us, and we in the earth will know what those signs mean because they will be manifest in the physical in the earth realm. Okay. So this is why it's so important that we understand where we at so we can prepare our brothers and sisters for what is coming. For the gospel that Yahusha HaMashiach preached unto us, he told us that the kingdom of heaven is coming. Get your house in order. Do not be caught off guard. And you're going to see how this prophetic dream relates to the book of Revelation, especially to Revelations chapter 12, all the way to, well, yeah, all the way to 19. Okay. From 12 to 19. I'm just giving highlights. I'm not getting it all into the details. And you're going to see why I especially mentioned Revelations chapter 12 as well as Revelations chapter 19. So let us get right into it. So the part where we are at, we're dealing with the iron and the clay. The iron and the clay. So take this time to pause your screen to understand the elements that King Nebuchadnezzar of the Babylonian Empire saw in his dream. Okay. For we know that the gold represented the the Babylonian Empire, which is represented by gold. The silver represent the Medo Persian Empire. Y'all forgive my tongue. For some reason, I'm struggling to say words today. But we're gonna get. But in the name of Yahushua Mashiach, I'm gonna get it together. So that's dealing with your Persian, with Medo Persian Empire. Okay. Then we have the Greek Empire, or they call the Grecian Empire, and that's represented by the brass. And to make a correction, the Middle Persian Empire is represented by silver. The iron represent the Roman Empire, and that is the fourth empire that we are in. And then it goes down to elaborate more about the Iron Empire to let us know where we're at, which is we're at the iron and the clay. And notice that the iron and the clay is happening in the foot area. So if you understand the Most High, He's telling us the beginning of it to the end, for the feet represent the end. And one of the greatest prophecies to understand what I'm talking about is looking at the prophecy that happened between Esau and Jacob. Okay. For those who read the Apocrypha as well as the King James 1611 Bible and looking at the prophet Hosea, he gives us the understanding that the feet represent the end of this empire. Okay. So all these empires had to occur. And if you notice that the Roman Empire, as I had shared with you in the past, is an inclusive empire, meaning that it includes a lot of the ancient empire ways, such as Nimrods, the Egyptians, the Babylonians, the Persians, the Greeks. See what I'm saying? So we can see a representation of some of the things that the Romans continue to do that occurred in these past empires. Okay, which is very important. So now we know we're at the end, and the end of this fourth empire is the iron mixed with clay. Now, this picture was taken from this site from Pin Interest, okay, and it was taken from this site under Ken Raggio teaches the modern prophetic meaning of the statue in Nebuchadnezzar dream. Now, when you read the Bible, it would say image, but people today would say statue. Okay, so that's where this image come from, giving credit to where this is coming from. The next image we're going to look at is, let me see, can I find it, y'all? I'm trying to get my eyes right. Is this image. You're going to see why um, the iron furnace is so important and what it represents and how does it relates to the fourth empire. Okay, very important. And as you see, in order to understand what I'm saying to you, brothers and sisters, for those who keep a remembrance of the Most High calendar, his timelines, his holy feast days, and holy days, and I also understand the biblical events that took place and what it represents, especially looking at Yahusha HaMashiach, our Messiah, you're going to have a greater understanding of this word today. And you're going to see how it relates to us, and it's going to give more confirmation on the things that my Father had to preach unto you, and it's going to put the naysayers ashamed. Okay? So we're going to come back to this picture, an iron furnace. What does this have to do with anything? What does this have to do with the Roman Empire? Okay? A lot. All right. So let's get right into this, y'all. But first, let's get this out the way for I will be sharing some copyright materials with you. For those, sorry, I'm using a loss of words for some reason. So I will be sharing some copyright material. In the United States of America, they recognize the King James Bible as the word of Yah, the word of God. So it's true. Okay. And we know Yahuwah is the L, T-E-L, and he is the big God that is above all gods. He's above Yahusha HaMashiach, the world that calls Jesus Christ, and he is above wisdom too. All right. And there's none beside him. That means there's no other one like him. All right. He is the great I am. All right. So the title of this word today is Nebuchadnezzar image, the iron and the clay, the iron furnace kingdom. You are going to say, well, why is Sister Lydia calling out a kingdom with a title that is known as the iron furnace kingdom, what that has to do with the iron and the clay that we see in Nebuchadnezzar image. Okay. So I will be sharing some copyright materials with you, for this is for educational purposes only. This is to edify the body of the Messiah, which is the bride, as well as the 144,000. For those two groups are known as the saints, the most holies of Yah. It is also to edify the house of Israel and the house of Judah, known as Yahudah. For soon the two candlesticks, known as the two menorah will be put together to be one menorah to represent one kingdom when the Messiah comes to reign upon the earth to give the judgment that his Father commanded him to do in the earth. So let's get right this into it. So I'm going to give y'all an appetizer because we're talking about iron and clay. And the first thing coming to my mind is, why does the Father use iron? Okay, in this fourth kingdom, why does he use it? What is he saying unto us? Okay, in other words, why does he label the fourth kingdom and compare it to iron? Okay, Father's telling me, if you understand the past, which is the what was, then you understand the present, which is the what is, and then you'll definitely understand the future, which is the what is to come. The appetizer is Jeremiah chapter 15 from the prophet. The chapter summary of Jeremiah chapter 15, it says that the utter rejection and manifold judgments of the Jews. Jeremiah complaineth of their spite, receive a promise for himself, and a threatening for them. He prayeth and receiveth a gracious promise. We are going to verse 12. Verse 12. This is our appetizer. This is what Yahuwah asked. Okay? Verse 12. I'm trying to see if I need to read up higher just to make sure. Okay. So to save time, I want you to read verse 10 down to 14. But this is the question the Father asked. He asked, shall iron break the northern iron and the steel? Shall iron break the northern iron and the steel? And the answer to this question is no. For when you read a whole chapter and you do your study, you will learn that the Father was talking about this kingdom of the north that he's going to rise, that he's going to bring against the children of Israel. So he's letting them know, can iron break the northern iron and the steel? For you know anything about the kingdom of the north during that particular period of time was the Babylonians, and we know the Chaldeans was a part of that kingdom as well. So when they came against the children of Israel, they was a fierce kingdom, and Israel could not conquer them. Okay, or could not, what's the word I'm looking for, win against them. So the answer to this question is no. That kingdom that he raised up against them could not be broken. and could not be overcome. Okay. So before we get into the deeper details about iron and the characteristics of iron, we need to go to the interpretation that our Father gave unto Daniel dealing with um, the iron mixed with clay. So now we're going to Daniel's chapter 2 of the King James 1611 Bible, because that is the time period where we're at now. And for those who have access to brewletter.org, that's where your strong concordance is, it will confirm that the iron mixed with clay is talking about the Roman Empire, the fourth kingdom that we in. And we had discussed what 4 means. It is the time where one will be tested, a time where one will be tried, a time where one would go through the fire. Okay? So everything is connecting together. For those who have not had a chance to watch that video, watch the video on the meaning of blue and the Roman numeral IV. Okay? So now we're going to Daniel chapter 2. We're going to read the chapter summary first. For the chapter summary says this: Nebuchadnezzar, forgetting his dream, required it of the Chaldeans by promises and threatenings. They, acknowledging their inability, are judged to die. Daniel, attaining some respect, findeth the dream. He blesseth Yahuwah. He staying the decree is brought to the king, the dream, the interpretation, Daniel's advancement. Let me see here where we want to start. We're going to start with the part of the interpretation. And we're going to start at verse 40. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. Underline that. This is why we got to look at the attributes of iron. So the fourth kingdom, which is the fourth kingdom we are in, shall be strong as iron. For as much as iron breaketh in pieces, and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. Verse 41. Whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay, underline that, and part of iron. So this is dealing with the feet and the toes, brothers and sisters. The kingdom shall be divided, underline that. So this is in the fourth kingdom. First you had the Roman Empire, but that same empire, that kingdom shall be divided now. Okay? The kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with murray clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so shall the kingdom be partly strong and partly broken. Underline that too. That's very important. So where we see the iron, that's where the kingdom shall be strong, But where we see the clay, that's where we see it partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with murky clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. Underline that. They shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. Okay? We're going to read down to 45 and we're going to come back to verse 43 because verse 43 is telling you who's the iron and who's the clay. Okay? Verse 44, and in the days of these kings shall Yahuwah of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms. What kingdom is that? The kingdom that's in the fourth kingdom that is divided. It's going to consume all these kingdoms, all these divided kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. This is dealing with the kingdom of heaven, the eternal kingdom, brothers and sisters. Verse 45, for as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold. Okay? So just break down all these kingdoms that Nebuchadnezzar saw in his image. Okay? The great Yahuwah have made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof. Okay, so let me take y'all to the precept before we get right into it, because I have a lot of things to tell you and share, and some things we may not be able to read in this video, but I will give you the scriptures and the resources to go to it so we can get right into it. Take this time now to pause your screen to get the precepts for Daniel chapter 2. So we know that stone that was taken out of the mountain without man's hand. That means this one is not created by man. This one comes from heaven. He is the Son of God. He is the Son of God. We know that is Yahusha HaMashiach. Okay? Revelation will reveal it and confirm it. But what we want to get to is that 43 is going to identify unto you who is the clay and who is those that mingle themselves with the seed of mankind. This is why you have them not be able to join themselves together, just as a man and wife is joined to each other right here, because this verse said that they shall not cleave one to another, for there are two different elements. Two different elements. They can't mix. Two different elements. Okay? So when we look at the word cleave, we understand that cleave means to join, to go into covenant to, okay? To be, that's another word I wrote down, y'all. To stick together. But because we're dealing with two different elements here, which is the iron and the clay, we already know that iron cannot stick to clay, nor can clay stick to iron, because you can take your hand and break the two apart. So Father is saying something deep here. So for those who work in the whole volume book, going back to the beginning, Adam, the male and the female, was made from the earth, known as Adamah. Virgin, red, brownish clay. Even Josephus and Enoch's writings, first, second, and third, will confirm what I'm saying to you. Please go back and read those writings. Okay? So we know the clay is dealing with the children of Adam. Now the eyes are a little tricky, but this is how I know what I know. Going back to the book of Revelation and also going to Daniel's writings, you will learn that this kingdom, this fourth beast kingdom, is described as what? A dragon. And we know the angels of Yah are made of what? Of fire. One of the verses that come to mind, I think it's in Hebrews chapter 1 or Hebrews chapter 2, as well as the book of Songs. You will learn that the angels of heaven are made from fire. And when you read about Satan in the Bible, I want to take y'all to that verse by one of the prophets. You will learn that when he walked on fiery stones. In other texts, when you're looking at other beings that came from heaven to give a message unto the children of Adam, unto the children of Noah, unto the children of Israel, they walked on coals. Again, the same stones of fire, right? And those stones of fire are made up of iron. Also, Father's telling me that when you study about his angels of heaven, you will learn right now, compare in our condition, because we are in a condition of sin. We are not complete yet. Okay. Like our foreparents were before they fell, they are much stronger than us. So those who are not in the covenant with Yahusha Mashiach are weak and cannot overcome them. Now you see where I'm going with this. This is deep. Okay. So the first thing so I won't forget, because y'all, I do forget, and I ask y'all forgive me. I would tell y'all, take y'all to the verse, because I know last time I told you I would take y'all to Hebrews 11, where you can see the hidden one, the one that was working behind the scenes that Moses saw was the dragon. And this is why you hear Egypt being referred to as what? A dragon. And I can't remember if the scripture also referred to as Leviathan. Okay. So let us go to Ezekiel chapter 28. So I can show you about Satan walking on the stones of fire. And Enoch is definitely the prophet to give you understanding about these angels from heaven. Ezekiel chapter 28, Yahuwah's judgment upon the prince of Tyrus for his sacrilege pride, a lamentation of his great glory corrupted by sin, the judgment of Zidon, the restoration of Yashrael, Israel. So what we're going to go to, we're going to go right down into it. Because just like Satan entered Judas, just like Satan entered into the serpent of the Garden of Eden, the same is with the king of Tyrus. This is where Jezebel come from. Her father was the king of Tyre, and they worship and serve Satan, Baal, and they also serve Astaroth, which is the same. Satan can change himself to male or female. Okay, just getting right straight into it. So in verse, let's see here. So as you learn history, the first sin took place in the heavens, and that was through him and his fellow angels. Okay, and you know misery love company, so they came down here. Satan came down here, and he deceived our foreparents and caused them to commit sin too. Verse 13, thou hast been in the Eden, that thou hast been in Eden, the garden of Yahuwah. Every precious stone was thy covering, the sardius, topaz, and the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, and the sapphire, and the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes was prepared in thee in the day that thou wast created. Thou art the anointed cherubim that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of Yahuwah. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou was created. Do y'all hear that? Perfect. That means he was not in sin or and transgressed against Yahuwah. But then he chose otherwise. So he was perfect in thy ways from the day that thou was created, till iniquity was found in thee. Another proof to see, to understand what I'm talking about is, for example, like I said, when you compare the makeup of the angels versus the makeup of Adam, you would see that they had these elements upon them or under them that bear the fire. Okay? That bear the fire. All right. We're going to go to the prophet Habakkuk. This is giving you just some examples. You don't have to agree with me, but this is what I have thus far according to the word of Yah. Prophet Habakkuk in his prayer trembleth at God's majesty, trembleth at Yahuwah's majesty, the confidence of his faith. So we're going to verse 5. We're going to start at verse 4. It said, and his brightness was as the light, and he had horns coming out of his hand, and there was the hiding of his power. Before him went the pestilent, and burning coals went forth at his feet. All right. Here's the side notes for the prophet Habakkuk that you can check out in your spare time. And then the next one we're going to go to as a third witness unto us is the prophet Ezekiel. The prophet Ezekiel. Okay. And this is talking about how Yahuwah came from Tamar and the holy on from Mount Paran, Selah. And it goes on to say, his glory covered the heavens, and the earth was full of his praise. And his brightness was as the light, and he had horns coming out of his hand. And there was the hiding of his power. Okay. So now we're going to go to Ezekiel chapter 1. Shall I go to Ezekiel chapter 4? I'm trying to remember. Let me first go to Ezekiel. I'm just going to check something out right quick before we go to Ezekiel chapter 1. But actually, we're going to make this simple. Let us go to Ezekiel chapter 1 and get this out the way. In Ezekiel chapter 1, chapter summary says, the time of Ezekiel prophecy at Chebar, his vision of four cherubims, that's a type of angel, of the four wheels and of the glory of Yahuwah. So when we go to verse 13, here's another proof of what I'm saying. As for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire. Burning coals of fire. So you can see like fires of stone or burning coals of fire. And like the appearance of lamps, it went up and down among the living creatures, and the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning. Okay. Next one we're going to go to of the prophet Ezekiel is in chapter 10, verse 2. It said the vision of the coals of fire to be scattered over the city, the vision of the cherubims. Again, we see angels here. These are the one operate in the spiritual realm. And these are the things that most of us cannot see unless the Father opened up our eyes to see these spiritual things. Okay. So when we go to verse 2, it says here, let me read from the top in verse 1. Then I looked, and behold, in the firmament there was above the head of the cherubims that appeared over them as it were a sapphire stone, as the appearance of the likeness of a throne. And he spake unto the man clothed with linen and said, Go in between the wheels, even under the cherubim, and fill thy hands with coals of fire from between the cherubims, and scatter them over the city. And he went in my sight. So I'm telling y'all, when these cherubims appear, there are either fire or stones under them, or what they call coals of fire, fire or stones. And my gut is telling me they have the component of iron in it that is bearing what? The light. Okay. Last one we're going to go to. I want to see if it's anything in Ezekiel chapter 24. Okay. I'm in Ezekiel chapter 24. Here go the chapter summary. It said, under the parable of a boiling pot, it showed the y'all forget my tongue, irrevocable destruction of Jerusalem. By the side of Ezekiel not mourning for the death of his wife, it showed the calamity of the Jews to be beyond all sorrow. So we see here. Okay, that's not the one. Okay, good. That's another verse Ezekiel had, but I want to say that for later for another topic we're going to discuss in this video. So we're going down to, I went past the verse, y'all. Verse 9. Let me see here. That's something I do want to say later on. Okay, so we'll come back to that verse later on. But what I show y'all from Ezekiel to the prophet Habakkuk to the prophet again, Ezekiel in chapter 8, giving you the description of what Satan looks like before he fell. I'm telling y'all, they were made from fire. And what sustained that fire is stones of fire or coal. And my gut is telling me is that those things are elements of iron. So what we understand about iron, and also for those who look up iron in the Strong Concordance, this is something you can do in your spare time. For the Hebrew word for iron is barzel, it's H1270. So I want you to get a sheet of paper to write this down. So what we learned is that iron from the prophet Daniel, okay, shows that it's very strong, hard to break. And that's how we know that is looking at what the prophet Jeremiah said about the iron that was used to represent it, the Babylonian kingdom and the Chaldeans who are part of that kingdom when they came against the children of Israel. Letting them know they won't be able to escape their hand, they won't be able to overcome them. Okay. So iron represent strength, and that is also represent that it's very powerful. When you look in your strong concordance under the Jessenius Hebrew Chaldean lexicon under H, and I believe it's under H 1270, okay, you will learn that iron also is used to give you understanding that it is hard and it's very firm. In other words, you can't get over it. It is strict. Strict. Very strict. It is hard, it is firm, and it strict. Just like the words say that our blessed Messiah will rule with a rod of iron, meaning that it does not play with you. Okay, there's very little room for grace and mercy, in other words. Okay, so this is very important that we understand the attributes of iron, because when we understand that, then we understand the prophetic message that the Father is giving unto us. So Daniel has confirmed unto us that they, the angels, shall mingle themselves with the seed of mankind, which is what? Mixed with their children. In other words, you see a mixture of two different species, okay, in this kingdom, in the fourth beast kingdom, okay? And the fourth beast kingdom is Rome. And proof of this is Revelation 12, for we know Edom, my uncle, his children, which is my cousins, have went in covenant with Satan. This is why the dragon is red, okay? And in Psalms 83, you will learn that the other children of Noah has went in covenant with them, okay, to come against the children of Israel, for out of that nation was the promised seed came from. And that promised seed is Yahusha HaMashiach. Okay. So I'm taking you back to Daniel chapter 2. So that's very important because Daniel is giving us a lot of information on what we're dealing with. This is why all these verses like Ephesians, as well as the other prophets, is telling us we are not dealing with flesh and blood. We're dealing with principalities who are angels. Proof of that can be found in Daniel chapter 8 when the Messiah was trying to get to Daniel, but the angel that was over Persia would not let him go past. They had to fight against it. Okay, so it's very important that we know the enemy that is working behind the scene that we cannot see with our fleshy eyes unless the Father has given you that gift to see the spirit realm. All right. So I'm going to take this back to Daniel chapter 2 because this is very important. So see Daniel 2. So this fourth beast kingdom is divided now. So that division represent what? Iron and clay. Now you see why we have all these different kingdoms now, like America, Europe, excuse me, y'all, Russia, Germany, Rome, etc. Okay, but if you notice, all these countries paid their allegiance to Rome. Okay, which is what the wounded head that's on the dragon in Revelations 13. Okay. Yeah, I thought I was going to Daniel's too, but it didn't go there. Let me get back on it. We want to have that pull up. So after we look at the attributes of iron or the characteristics of iron, I found something that is going to blow y'all minds. Seems like that site want to act up, but we're going to keep going forth, brothers and sisters. All right. We're going to read some of this at the top, but we're not going to read all of it. Homework. I want you to go to wikipedia.org, brother and sister, and read about iron. I'm just only here for the highlights. Okay. So it says that iron is a chemical element. It's also an element that can be found in the earth's crust. Okay. I have another Wikipedia that's called the simple Wikipedia of iron. Okay. but it is a metal, all right? It is a metal and it is a chemical element. Now, the symbol from iron is Fe, and it comes from the Latin word ferrum. Ferrum. Okay? It is the atomic number 26. It is a metal that belongs to the first series in group 8 of the periodic table. Remember that, y'all, in chemistry, what we learned? Remember what water was what? H2O, oxygen was O2. I'm trying to remember if I remember the sign for mercury. But anyway, y'all remember that periodic table we learned in chemistry? Yeah, that's what it's talking about. It is by mass the most common element on the earth. Underline that. This is the most common element on earth, forming much of Earth's outer and inner core. Underline that. What is the outer and inner core of the earth? It is Sheol, it is hell. Are y'all now putting this together? When one wants to stay warm in the winter, what do you need to contain the fire so it won't burn you up or burn down your house? Got a picture for you. You need something like what? An iron stove. Remember those old wood stoves back then? But was made of iron. And the reason why iron was chosen because it's one of the metal element that can sustain the heat. It can take the heat without being changed or without being melted right away. Because in order to change iron, somewhere in this article is going to list unto us how many degrees it take to change iron with fire. So it's a very good metal to use to make your wood stove with that it won't be affected by the fire, but it's a great conductor of the heat, a great conductor of the light. Do y'all see this? So this is why we see iron being used in a lot of those things. Even your cookware, you like your cast irons and stuff like that. Now this picture was from, I'm trying to pull that up. I mean, reverbere.com. That's where that picture is from. But as you see different types of stoves that one can use. But I do know the most preferred metal when it comes to enclosing fire so you can heat yourself without burning down your home and without getting what they call smoke poisoning is that you would use an iron wood stove. Okay. Now going back to our article. So the earth outer and inner core, which is Sheol, remember what the Messiah said, and then too, we also learned some more about Sheol when we were reading Enoch prophetic writings. Okay. Um, we learned that the heart of the earth is where you will find what the people call hell, the place of captivity. This is what Revelation 13 was talking about. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. And we know, according to the prophet Enoch, and it's also according to Yahusha HaMashiach, this is where these angels are imprisoned at. This is their place of captivity for, for their rebelliousness against the Most High. Okay, so here, I want to see, can I bring this picture up? Here you see the Earth outer core, what that looked like in that diagram, and you can see the Earth's inner core. So as this article is confirming unto us that iron is the most common element forming the Earth's outer and inner core. Remember we learned about the nuclei? It is the core. And when you look at the Latin breakdown of what that word means, nuclei, it means what? Seed. Okay. All right. Kernel, seed. So the inner core of the earth mass is mostly made up with the iron. Very important to know this, okay? It is, I'm sorry, the article also going to say that iron is the fourth most common element in the Earth's crust, being mainly deposited by meteorites in its metallic state. Okay. Now, if you read further down, it'll give you an idea of how much heat can this metal take before it is changed, into a liquid, going from a solid to a liquid. Okay, so that's something you can read in your spare time. But I do know it takes a lot of heat, y'all, to change its form to a liquid. But the part I want to get down to is dealing with the production of iron. I'm sorry, not the production of iron, dealing with history. Sorry, y'all, history. So under history, we're gonna go with symbolic role. Symbolic role. It says that iron plays a certain role in mythology and has found various usage as a metaphor and in folklore. The Greek poet Hesiod works in days, lines 109 to 201 lists different ages of man named after metals like gold, silver, bronze, and iron to account for successive ages of humanity. The Iron Age was closely related with Rome. Underline that. The Iron Age was closely related with Rome. Do you see how the Bible lines up with history? Hallelujah. And in Ovid's Metamorphoses, it says the following: the virtues in despair quit the earth, and the depravity of man becomes universal and complete. Hard steel succeeded then. Now, if you know anything about hard steel is made up of iron and carbon. Iron and carbon. So this comes from IV Metamorphosis, Book 1, Iron Age, line 166 FF. An example of the importance of iron's symbolic role may be found in the German campaign of 1813. Frederick William III commissioned then the first iron cross as military decoration. Berlin iron jewelry reaches peak production between 1813 and 1815, when the Prussian royal family urged citizens to donate gold and silver jewelry for military funding. The inscription, which I cannot say, means I gave gold for iron, was used as well in later war efforts. Okay, so I thought that was very interesting. The second article dealing with iron is under simplewikipedia.org. It's pretty much going to say some of the same things that we read in the first article, but what I want you to take a look at is, again, it's going to elaborate where iron is found, okay? Even in our blood, they said there are iron compounds in meat. Iron is an essential part of the hemoglobin in red blood cells. Okay. Like I said, iron has a big part to play, right? Dealing with under uses as a metal, notice that iron is used more than any other metal. It is strong and cheap. It is used to make buildings, bridges, nails, screws, pipes, gutters, and towels. So that's something else you can read in your spare time. But I think I might need to go back, y'all, to not that one. Where was it? Where iron is found. Okay. Let us read that and then we'll go on to the next following. There's a lot of iron in the universe because it is the end point of the nuclear reactions in large stars. It is the last element to be produced before the violent collapse of a supernova scatters the iron into space. The metal is the main ingredient in the Earth's core. We already talked about that. That's the center of the Earth or the heart of the Earth. It's the main ingredient, y'all. So this is what keep the heat on going. Keep it at its highest. Okay. It's even hotter than our summer heats. Okay. Near the surface, it is found as a ferrous or ferric compound. Some meteorites contain iron rare, in the form of rare minerals. Normally, iron is found as hematite ore in the ground, much of which was made in the Great Oxidation event. Iron can be extracted from the ore in a blast furnace. Some iron is found as magnetite. Okay. So the next thing we're going to go to now. So now that we understand iron, what this should remind you of that takes place during the holy festival that we know as Passover, Pesach, and the Feast of Living Bread. For the Messiah says that he will be in the heart of the earth for 3 days. And upon the third day, he shall resurrect. Let us go. So, going back to the Bible, let me see, can I pull it up? We're going to look at Psalms chapter 107. For Psalms chapter 107, we're going hand with a sacred book that gives you the inner details that happen on those 3 days and 3 nights during the holy month of Aviv, corn and green ear. Okay? For when I was meditating on the word honor, y'all, the first thing I thought was how the Messiah set the captive free from Sheol. Even the work of Josephus talks about Sheol. In the Greek tongue, they call it Hades. In the English tongue, we call it hell. Okay? Even the Messiah talked about some of it too. He mentions unto us Abraham's bosom, and he mentioned about the part where the unrighteous is. They are in the heart of the earth. Okay? And one of the things I remember was how the iron grates was broken. So before I take y'all to the book of Songs, chapter 107, let's go to the high priest writing known as Nicodemus. And now the word today may call it the righteous acts of Pontius Pilate, but these are the writing of Nicodemus. I'm going to the sacredtext.com. We're going to chapter 16, and the chapter summary of 16 says that Messiah arrives at hell gates. Underline that and notice what hell gates are made up of. The confusion thereupon, he descends into hell. So when the Messiah gave it the ghost, and he gave it the ghost in the ninth hour, which translate into the Romans time in the 3 p.m. hour. Okay. And when he gave it the ghost, his soul ascended down into Sheol. Okay. Hell. And while Satan and the prince of hell was discoursing thus to each other, on a sudden, there was a voice as of thunder and the rushing winds, saying, Lift up your gates, O ye princes, and be ye lifted up, O everlasting gates, and the King of glory shall come in. As I'm reading this, the Father is reminding me to give you the scriptures to confirm about how he set the captives free. You can find that in Ephesians chapter 4. I'm going to give you the side notes as soon as I get there. Sorry, y'all. Okay, Ephesians chapter 4. And in Ephesians chapter 4, in verse 8, it says, Wherefore he saith, when he ascended up on high, he led captivity captive and gave gifts unto men. The precept is in Psalms chapter 68, verse 18. Verse 9 go on to say, Now that he ascended, what is it? But that he also descended first into the lower parts of the earth. What is the lower parts of the earth, brothers and sisters? That is Sheol, hell. Verse 10, He that descended is the same also that ascended up far above all heavens, that he might fill all things. So the precepts are again, for verse 8, it is Psalms chapter 68, verse 18. Another way of saying captive is a multitude of captives. Okay. So he led a multitude of captives out of Sheol. Okay. And then the precept for verse 9 is First Peter chapter 3, verse 19. That is another verse that will confirm to you how the Messiah had to go down and deliver the captives out of captivity. Now you see how we all bringing this together with the iron. But let us keep going. Some of y'all maybe ought to connecting the dots. Okay, so we're going to pick up at verse 2 in chapter 16. When the prince of hell heard this, he said to Satan, Depart from me, and be gone out of my habitations. If thou art a powerful warrior, fight with the king of glory. But what hast thou to do with him? And he cast him forth from his habitations. And the prince said to his impious officers, Shut the brass gates of cruelty. Underline that. So the brass gates is what? Cruelty. That's what the brass represent. Cruelty. And make them fast with iron bars, and fight courageously, lest we be taken captives. Okay. So notice what he here to support the brass great security. He said, make them fast with iron bars. And what did we read about iron? It was to keep something out. It's a very strong metal, very hard to break, very powerful, right? Verse 5. But when all the company of the saints heard this, they spake with a loud voice of anger to the prince of hell. Now, these are the saints speaking. The saints are Adam, all the rest of them down, okay, who was held captives, who are in Abraham's bosom. So the saints who are what? The most holies of Yah. So they spake with a loud voice of anger to the prince of hell. Open our gates that the King of glory may come in. So the King of glory is Yahusha HaMashiach. And the divine prophet David cried out, saying, Did not I, when on earth, truly prophesy and say, Oh, that men would praise the Lord for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men, to the children of Adam. For he has broken the gates of brass. Underline that. Yahushua HaMashiach has broken the gates of brass and cut the bars of iron in sunder. So he had cut the bars of iron in sunder. He had broke it what? Broke it apart or cut it apart. Sorry, y'all. Cut it apart. He have taken them because of their iniquity and because of their unrighteousness. They are afflicted. Okay, let me read this again. For he has broken the gates of brass. So we know the brass was what? Of cruelty. And cut the bars of iron in asunder. The iron was the place of captivity to keep things from escaping, a stronghold. Do y'all hear me? A stronghold. He hath taken them because of their iniquity, and because of their unrighteous, they are afflicted. After this, another prophet named Holy Isaiah spake in like manner to all saints. Did not I rightly prophesy to you when I was alive on earth? The dead men shall live, they shall rise again, who are in their graves. They shall rejoice who are in earth. For dew which is from the Lord shall bring deliverance to them. Okay? I'm trying to see if I need to keep reading, but in y'all spare time, pause your screen, take this time now to read this, because you're going to see how it lines up with what's written in Psalms 107. But what we want to point out, not only did he break the gates of cruelty, which was made of brass, he broke the bars of iron, the strongholds, right? Notice who was over hell, these angels, right? Okay. Now we're going to Psalms chapter. Okay, here we go. Psalms chapter 107. For the sake of time, I will have to speed this up because I got to get to the core of the message, to the heart of the message. Okay. But I'm laying the foundation so you can understand why Father would use iron mixed with clay. But the two are not adhering to one another. Okay. Or sticking to one another. This is Psalms 107, for it says that the psalmist exhorteth the redeemed in praising Yahuwah to observe his manifold providence over travelers, over captives, over sick men, over seamen, and in divers varieties of life. And I think I mispronounced the word. In number 4, it said over travailers, over travailers. Okay. So we're going to go down to verse 10 first. This is very important. We're going to read 10 through 11. For it says, such as sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, being bound in affliction and iron. See that? Bound. Bound means to be what? To be all tied up, to be in a stronghold. And because you are in this stronghold, you are sitting in darkness. You are sitting in the shadow of death. You are, in other words, going back to the beginning, Satan, who is the angel of death and destruction, the angel of darkness, is your ruler now because you have become a servant to sin. Go back to the beginning to understand what I'm saying. And because you have become a servant to sin, where we were once eternal beings, we have become mortal. Where once our body was incorruptible, it became corruptible, meaning that death is upon us. This is why we age. Okay. Showing us, let us know that death is upon us. Okay. So, because this is upon us now, we are now bound in affliction and iron. So now we're getting the understanding why. The why we go through pain and suffering. Oh, children of Israel, hear what I'm saying because I'm about to get to the heart of the message so you can understand why you are going through affliction now. Genesis 15, affliction. Okay? We are bound in affliction. We are bound in iron. Underline that. This is so important. Verse 11. Because they rebelled against the words of Yahuwah. What's the same for the children of Israel? It's the same for us now, brothers and sisters. Do you hear me, Israelites and Israelites and Gentiles? Because they rebelled against the words of Yahuwah and contemned the counsel of the Most High. Therefore he brought down their heart with labor. They fell down, and there was none to help. So, children of Israel, pay attention. Now you understand why a deliverer must come to set you free. You cannot do this by your hand. No matter where you flee to, no matter where you flee to or go to, you will be in affliction and you will be bound by iron. No matter where you go, you will not have no peace. Go back and read those blessings and curses that's in Deuteronomy 28. This is why what is done in ancient Egypt is done into Egypt of today. Okay? You have to be delivered, and you cannot do this by your hand because of the iron. For the iron represent what? The strongholds, which represent what? The angels. For again, you're not dealing with flesh and blood. Now we're going to skip down, but I do want you to read this whole chapter. Okay? Um, See, we start at 9 and 10. I'm trying to see where I want to end it, y'all. We'll read down to 16. So we're going to pick it up at 11. So we read verse 11. We read verse 12. So now we're going to read verse 13. Then they cried unto Yahuwah in their trouble, and he saved them out of their what? Distresses. So when I read this is reading, because I didn't start from the beginning, y'all. This sound like how he had delivered them from a captivity they were in, right? Very important. What was done then, it will be done now. He is the same. He brought them out of darkness and the shadow of death. So he brought them out of the darkness, including he brought him out of the shadow of death. Remember, there's a shadow, all right? I remember some people testimony of them going to hell. They was talking about this out of darkness. Okay. So he brought them out of darkness. He brought them out of the what? The hand of Satan. He even brought them out of the shadow of death. Okay. And break their bands in sunder. So he broke their bands in sunder. What is those bands? That is that iron yoke that's upon us. Okay. Go back and shut this scripture out. Look up iron yoke, y'all. Verse 15. Oh, that men would praise Yahuwah for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. Did we not just read that in the writings of the high priest Nicodemus, known as the Acts of Pontius Pilate? So this is also relating to how he set the captives free out of hell, Sheol. Okay. Verse 16. For he has broken the gates of brass and cut the bars of iron in sunder. So now you see what we read in the book of High Priest Nicodemus is true. Let me go to it. Of the sacred text. And I'm going back to the top. We read chapter 16, but I'm going back to the top so you will know where to find this book. It's in the book of the lost books of the Garden of Eden. Okay, so I'm going to the top so y'all can find it. So now you can see how all this relates to the message that the word is given unto us. So this comes from the Gospel of Nicodemus, formerly called the Acts of Pontius Pilate. This is also found in the lost books of the Bible. Okay? This is found in the lost books of the Bible, right? Very important. So we got confirmation that this same testimony is written in the book of Psalms as well. So for your homework, I want you to read this whole entire chapter because what is done is what was done then in the past shall be done again. Now you understand why a deliverer must come and rescue us or deliver us out of the hands of the dragon. So no matter where you go, remember you are still in Satan's kingdom. Okay, so now let's get to the hardcore of this matter of what the Father gave unto me to give unto you. So when I was doing some research on what scripture relates to iron, and this was the scripture that appeared unto me. And this scripture would give us understanding of the oppression that we are going through, Israelites and Gentiles. Israelites for who we are, and because we broke the covenant with Yah, and because of those who are in covenant with Yahusha HaMashiach, this is why we are going through what we are going through in this kingdom. Okay? Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 20, it says that, but Yahuwah have taken you and brought you forth out of the iron furnace, underline that, even out of Egypt, to be unto him a people of inheritance, as ye are this day. So, underline that. He said, unto the children of Israel, Yahuwah brought us out of the iron furnace, even out of Egypt. And the next verse is going to confirm what I'm about to say to you now. Notice how Father referenced Egypt as the iron furnace. As the iron furnace. What is done back then is done in now. Did he not use iron in the image of Nebuchadnezzar, image that he saw in his dream? Are we not at the part of the feet now, which is the end, where the iron has mixed itself with the clay, but the two are not cleaving to one another. They're not adhering to one another. So part of the kingdom is strong and part of the kingdom is weak, and the kingdom is divided. Okay? Jeremiah chapter 11, verse 4, write that down. Which I commanded your fathers in the day that I brought them forth out of the land of Egypt. What is Egypt? The house of bondage. The house of bondage. From the iron furnace, saying, obey my voice and do them, according to all which I command you. So ye be my people, and I will be your God. Don't that sound familiar, Israelites and Gentiles? Obey him. Obedience is better than sacrifice. And when we do, we shall be his people, and he will be our God. Okay? Then 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 51, for it says here, for they be thy people and thy inheritance, which thou broughtest forth out of Egypt, from the midst of the furnace of iron. Y'all hear that? From the midst of the furnace of iron. Okay? Then in Ezekiel chapter 22, verse 18, it says, Son of man, the house of Israel is to me become dross. You know what dross is? That's that component that developed on the metal that makes it look unpleasant, dull, unclean, right? That dross represent your sins, your transgressions you have committed against Yah. All they are brass and tin and iron and lead in the midst of the furnace. They are even the dross of silver. So he described the house of Israel, which is the trying to make sure I got the right kingdom. I believe this is talking to, I have to go back to that chapter, but he's talking to the children of Israel. I can't remember which kingdom right now on the top of my head. But notice he compared them like to certain metals. And with these certain metals, if you know, if it's exposed to the air like oxidation and they're not cleansed properly, then they would develop dross upon them. Well, that same thing is compared to them to show them that they are defiled, they are unclean, they are in sin, and they had committed transgression against Yah. So notice here, he said, notice here that these metals are in the midst of the furnace. So it's in the furnace now. Wow. We're going to get to the message. We get there. So I just want to confirm to you before we go to Ezekiel chapter 22, verse 20. So if the ancient Egypt is the furnace of iron, let us know that it is the kingdom of Satan. Okay. So what this kingdom is now, same thing. Kingdom of Satan. Matthew chapter 4, Luke chapter 4. Notice what he tells the Messiah. If you bow down to me, I will give you one of my kingdoms. Something like that. And to make sure I'm saying correctly for homework, read Matthew chapter 4 and Luke chapter 4. And the first thing that came in my mind, y'all, when I was meditating of furnace of iron, for I showed y'all a wood stove, right? I showed you that picture of a wood stove, like a fireplace, but this one is enclosed. The first thing I thought of was that hell on earth. Just like there's hell in the heart of the earth, in the center of the earth, I thought about the world that we're in now. And because it's the Satan kingdom, y'all, the children of Israel and the saints, which is bride of Messiah and the 144,000, we are going through hell on this earth. We are going through the fire. And the fire represents the trials and tribulation we are going through now. Proof unto this, the Messiah even prophesies this unto us in the book of John, chapter 16, verse 32. Write that down. In the book of John, chapter 16, verse 32. And this is to confirm unto y'all, because many have their own beliefs about tribulation. Many do not understand that if you do not pass this tribulation that you are in now, in other words, if you do not graduate, which means that you are to come into the covenant that Messiah is to establish for us, a new covenant, and you are not producing the 9 fruits of the Holy Spirit that's written in Galatians 5, if it's Father will and you do not see the death, then you will have to face the last wicked one to come, the 8 out of the 7, the beast. Revelation 12. Very important. Very important to the naysayers. Because Revelation 19 confirm unto you that the marriage supper of the Lamb take place in the heavens. And those who are invited, this go with the parable of the King's Supper, will go to the heavens and go to that feast. But then what most importantly I want you to notice, what takes place after that feast? Then the Messiah, and I know the 144 is going to accompany him. Read Revelation 14, 15, I know it's 7, 14, and 15. They're going to accompany him to go in battle to go against the beast. Okay? This is why in the Greek tongue, when it said one shall be taken and the other left, the one that is taken is the righteous one. The other left will have to face the beast. This is why the word taken in Greek tongue means paralambano. It does not mean to be cut off. There is a different Greek word for that because to be cut off means to be put to death. So when you look at these precepts and you look at these biblical prophecies and you look at the holy feast days, this is what the Shavuot offering is about. The two-way loaves, the first fruits of Yahuwah, for they graduated. They went through the fire. They was what? Refined like silver, and they was purified like gold. There's no dross on them. Okay? So they have graduated. So they will go into the wilderness in the heavens. Now, for the house of Israel and the house of Judah, they will go into the wilderness in the earth. For they have to be what? Grafted back into the olive tree. They have to go under the bond of the covenant. Ezekiel chapter 20, Ezekiel chapter 36, and there's Hebrews chapter 8, Jeremiah chapter 31. Romans 11. We are coming to the end of the time of the Gentiles. For the end time of the Gentiles or the fullness of the Gentile means that the Father has given them 2 days of his time, which is 2,000 years of his time, to receive the gospel now. And that time is coming to an end. This is why you see the children of Israel waking up. So, to confirm what I'm saying to you, y'all, go back to them feast days. The first example we have what? Passover, the feast of unleavened bread. For the sheepway offering was offered on the V16th, representing the resurrection of Yahusha HaMashiach with the saints. This is why in Matthew chapter 28, it tells unto us, when the Messiah resurrected first, then the saints came out their graves too, in body, soul, and spirit, just like him. Okay? So everything I'm telling y'all, if we go from the beginning of the book to the end of the book, we got too much evidence, too much testimony, too much witness to let us know what is written in Luke chapter 1. He will provide a way of escape for us. He will send the eagle wings to deliver us. Okay? Because as you see, we cannot deliver ourselves because Pharaoh of today, which is the dragon, which is Satan, would not let us go. For we are in what? The iron furnace. Okay? Notice another thing the Father said. Remember how he delivered Daniel and the three Hebrew men, and they did not get burned by the fire because the living word was with them? But that's the same thing. The living word is helping us to graduate. So we are what not. So we are not consumed by the fire that's in the iron furnace. Like I said, it's many revelations to this. So now I'm in John chapter 16, and it says in 31, it says, Yahusha answered them, do ye now believe? Behold, the hour coming, yea, is now come, that ye shall be scattered, every man to his own or own home, and shall leave me alone, yet I am not alone, because the Father is with me. These things I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. Why we got to have peace now? Because we are in hell right now. We are in Satan's kingdom. Now, the reason why I'm smiling because some of my brothers may misinterpret what I'm saying. There is a hell in the center of the earth, but we're getting a taste of it in the earthly realm. I'm going to say this again. There is a heaven and a hell. And the hell of captivity, where the souls go, where that breath go, is in the center of the earth. But the earth that we're living in now, I'm talking about with the land of the living, we are going through hell. We are going through trials and tribulations. But these trials and tribulations are to perfect us. So we can be what? Refined like silver and purified as gold. Okay? So in verse 33, he said, these things I have spoken to you that ye might have peace. Peace in what? Satan's kingdom. In the world ye shall have tribulation. I know like that. We are in tribulation, y'all. But be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. Reason why we are of good cheer, for he had overcome it. So he that live in us will help us overcome our trials and tribulations. Do y'all see that? Until the regeneration can take place. So there is a paradise to go to, and that's in the third heaven. Even Apostle Paul will confirm this in the book of Corinthians. I think it's Second Corinthians. Okay. So I'm trying to think what was the next thing we was going to go back to. So just like the Egypt of yesterday, and the Father's telling me to take you to Hebrews 11. Thank you, Father. So you can see that Moses did see Satan in Pharaoh. Um, just like ancient Egypt of yesterday, the house of bondage, we are in Egypt today, and that Egypt today is Rome. Okay, what was done back then is done again, and as the prophet Daniel told unto us, the kingdom is divided, but in the parts that is iron is very strong. For they have went in covenant with Satan and those angels and those evil spirits. And this is why we must have a deliverer, and that deliverer must be the Son of Yah, the Son of God, which is Yahusha HaMashiach. You cannot deliver thyself. You cannot. Okay? Hebrews 11. Hebrews 11 says this in the chapter summary. What faith is, without faith we cannot please Yah. The worthy fruits thereof in the fathers of old time. I had to stop it quick because my curse be acting crazy. Verse 23. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents, because they saw he was a proper child, and they not afraid of the king's commandment. By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughters, choosing rather to suffer affliction. Underline that. Remember what we read in Psalms 107. We are what? Bound in affliction and iron. Okay? Choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of Yahuwah than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. See, Moses had the whole world at his fingertips. He can been chosen to live his life as a prince of Egypt, but instead he chose to live his life as a Hebrew, as the Israelites, and to suffer the same afflictions as his kinsmen did. Then to enjoy the pleasure of sin for a season, esteeming the reproach of Messiah greater riches than the treasures in Egypt. Underline that. So, what we're going through now, y'all, this is why the Father said, do not build your kingdom here, build your treasures in heaven. This world is not our home. Satan's kingdom is not our home, brothers and sisters. We are to preach the gospel, which is that the kingdom of heaven is coming. We are to forsake these worldly things, for these things are like a fade of a flower. It's going to wither and die. So, the same as a flower wither and dying is the same with this world that we're in now. It's going to be destroyed by fire. Okay? So, let us go on to read verse 26. For he had respect unto the recompense of the reward by faith. Now, this is Moses again. Because he believed, he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. Underline that. Who did he saw that was invisible, that was in Pharaoh? The dragon, that old serpent that deceiveth the whole world, which is Satan. Revelations 12 and 9. Okay? And I will read this last thing. Through faith, Moses kept the Passover and the sprinkling of blood, lest he that destroyed the firstborn should touch them. Okay. And see, by faith they passed through the Red Sea as the dry land, which the Egyptians assaying to do were drowned. Okay. So you got to believe. You got to believe in what the word tell you. Don't worry about what the majority is saying. I've seen a lot of false preaching about the way of escape. They don't believe, but they don't understand the ways of our Father. If you believe you have to go through this wicked one to come, the eight out of the seven, the anti-Messiah that the world called the Antichrist. If you believe that, then the Father gonna let you go through it. But if you believe that the Father have a way of escape, just like He did for Noah, just like He did for Lot, just like He did for the children of Israel, then you will partake in that way of escape according to your heart, your faith, and your works. Okay? So going back to this part, this is the part that is the kicker about the iron furnace. Ezekiel chapter 22, verse 20. As they gathered silver and brass and iron and lead and tin into the midst of the furnace, to blow the fire upon it, underline that, to blow the fire upon it, to melt it. So it's to melt what all these metals. Hear what the Father saying to them, O children of Israel. So will I gather you in my anger and in my fury, and I will leave you there and melt you. He was speaking to Southern Kingdom, Jerusalem. Notice what the Father said here. I want y'all to really meditate on this. Just as these metals gathered together in a furnace, an iron furnace, so they can be what? Melted. And to increase the intensity of the fire, to melt these different metals, notice what is blown upon it. Air, wind, the spirit of Yah, the living word, right? Because out of his mouth come what? Fire. Ooh, mm, to melt it. The same would be done to Yahusha during that period of time. So what was done back then would be done now. So will I gather you in my anger and in my fury, and I will leave you there and melt you. So he's letting you know he will consume you. If you're not going to graduate from these trials and tribulations of being in captivity in the iron furnace of the Egypt of today, then he's going to consume you with fire and melt you until you become ashes. Do you hear what the living words say on this? We got to pull it up. Ezekiel chapter 22, verse 20, and then we're going to end. Okay, I'm going to let y'all meditate on this because this is deep. Because this is the captivity we are in now. We are in the iron furnace. And the only way we're going to come out that furnace unless you have went into covenant with Yahusha HaMashiach. Same thing with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. They can be grafted back into what? That natural outer tree. And that root is Yahusha HaMashiach, that living word, that seed that was implanted in our bellies in the beginning of Genesis when man was created. That was revived through Yahusha HaMashiach. Okay? So we are going to Ezekiel chapter 22. Yeah, that was the kingdom he was prophesizing to. It was the southern kingdom, Jerusalem. The chapter summary is this. Ezekiel chapter 22 summary. A catalog of sins in Jerusalem. Yahuwah will burn them as dross in his furnace. The general corruption of prophets, priests, princes, and people. So all of them were corrupt from the head to the end. So as we go down to verse 20, I'm going to read from verse 19. Thus saith Yahuwah El, because ye are all become dross, behold, therefore I will gather you into the midst of Jerusalem. Remember the destruction of Jerusalem. There was 2 times in the days of King Nebuchadnezzar with the Babylonians and the Chaldeans, and in the days of Rome. Right? Okay. As they gathered silver and brass and iron and lead and tin into the midst of the furnace, to blow the fire upon it, to melt it, so will I gather you in my anger and in my fury, and I will leave you there and melt you. Take this as example unto this world now, and because it's about all the countries now. The same thing that happened to the children of Israel will be the same thing that happened to this world. He's going to gather you and melt you in his wrath until you are totally consumed by his fire, and you become what? Dust. Yea, I will gather you and blow upon you in the fire of my wrath, and ye shall be melted in the midst thereof, as silver is melted in the midst of the furnace, so shall ye be melted in the midst thereof, and ye shall know that I, Yahuwah, have poured out my fury upon you. And that's what we're getting to, y'all. We at the end now. We at the feet. That's the end. Let us know the end of Esau world and the coming of Jacob's kingdom. And in Jacob's kingdom, Yahusha HaMashiach shall be King of kings and Lord of lords. So if you don't want to be consumed by the fire, you need to graduate. If you want to come out of that iron furnace, okay? Because we are in the house of bondage and we are in the iron furnace. And you want to not to be consumed by the fire, which is represent the wrath of Yahuwah, then you need to come into the covenant while you have time now. And to come into the covenant, follow the instruction in Romans chapter 10, and then be baptized in water. For the Lamb set the example of that baptism. And if you have no one to baptize you in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, then you can baptize yourself, exercising, which is showing your faith, your belief with works. Okay? And the same is with the Holy Spirit baptism. The Father made that easy. If you have no apostle near you to give you the Holy Spirit baptism, then the Father will give it unto you wherever you are, according to your heart, faith, and works. And to receive it, all you have to do is ask the Father to give it unto you in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. I hope y'all enjoyed this word today, because y'all, this is a deep word to let us know we are in that iron furnace. And the only way we can come out of this iron furnace, this place of captivity, that the angels have us in, the fallen ones, you're going to need to be in covenant with Yahusha. You're going to need to be joined to him. Okay? So you won't be consumed by the iron furnace fire, which represents Yahuwah's wrath. Okay? And the last thing I want to say to you, make sure you read Revelations 19. Please read it and see what takes place after the marriage supper of the Lamb, because that is by invitation only. That happens in the heavens, not in the earthly realm. And notice what happened after it. Okay? Notice what happened after it. Then the bridegroom is what? Groom up for war to take down the fourth beast kingdom. Also notice what Revelation 12 say in the chapter summary. How the woman is given two great wings, and how the woman is also, it's 2 separate verses. Let me go to Revelation 12 quick so you can have it. Verse 6, how the woman go to a place prepared by Yah, by him. That's in the heavenly realms. And then in verse 14, how the woman is given 2 wings of the great eagle. That's the house of Israel and the house of Yahudah, to escape the beast's army, because the army is the flood, how the earth opened up her mouth to swallow up what? Pharaoh's army, the dragon's army. Wow. Like I said, history is like, you can just see how everything relates to the old. So if you don't want to go through and face that anti-Messiah, and you want to be of the two wave loaves, the first fruits of Yahuwah, come in now while you have time. Okay? For as it is written in Luke chapter 21, as well as Matthew and the book of Luke, those that are taken shall be either in the wilderness of the heaven, which is paradise, or the wilderness of the earth. This concludes this word regarding Nebuchadnezzar's image, the iron and the clay, the iron furnace kingdom. Notice how the Father uses trials and tribulations to get the sons and daughters of Adam, the sons and daughters of Noah, to be perfected and to be righteous and without sin in his eyesight. Shalom.